G'day everyone, this is DJCotts here, and I haven't been able to do a video in a while, so it's fantastic to be back getting these things done. And today I've got a very interesting video for you guys. I'm doing a video review of this, which is the Stanton SCS.4DJ. It's an all-in-one DJ controller, and it can be used as a standalone system with USB media such as smartphones, removable hard drives, or USB keys. And it can also be plugged in to a computer and used to control software such as Traktor or Serato. Now, there's been an explosion of these type of things out onto the market in the last 2 years, and to be honest, I wish these things were around when I first started DJing. It's definitely changing the way we're mixing music. It's making DJing much more accessible for people that are wanting to get into it for the first time, so they don't have to lay down thousands and thousands of dollars for a professional DJing system. You can pick this guy up from Store DJ for 550 Australian dollars at the moment. And we're going to run this controller through its paces today, check out just about every single aspect of it, and really talk about whether it's worthwhile you guys checking it out. So let's get to it. So the SCS.4DJ in its box, I don't actually know what's contained within at the moment, so you guys get to open it with me, which is exciting. The features here, Stanton seems to really talk about the weighted platters, the high resolution LCD, the fact that you can record your mixes directly to a WAV file, which I'm really interested to try out natively in hardware, auto loop mode for USB ports, and yeah, lots and lots of stuff. So let's get to it. Let's open this. Oh, very pretty. Warranty for peace of mind. Excellent. And quick start guide. So we've got a nice layout of the controller here, and there's a firmware update available. So we'll go through the updating process. Awesome. Alright, so it seems to come with a power adapter, very important, user manual and software, and the controller itself. So this unit has a fairly standard layout, which is really good because it has the same type of workflow that you'll find on most DJ gears these days, so you can basically pick it up and get to work. You've got your mixer section in the middle here with EQs and then these up faders on either side. Then you've got the headphone buttons for basically cueing in your headphones. You've got the crossfader, and then there's this button here called record, and that basically enables a recording directly to your external media, which is really cool. Then you've got these CDJ sections on each side, and basically these platters are weighted and touch sensitive as well, so you can touch the top, grab the music, move it back, scratch, and do all that type of cool stuff. You've got play, cue, sync, and tap buttons here. You've got this button here for basically toggling between scratch and CDJ mode, or vinyl mode as it's called. You've got these pitch sliders on either side here for controlling the tempo of the music. Then you've got effects sections up here. We've got 4 effects on this unit: filter, flange, slice, and delay, and also a section for looping as well. Now that's fairly straightforward with the workflow, but the heart is really the interface here. There's a full color screen here, and these controls here, including this dial, allows you to basically scroll through tracks and do things like that, but we'll go into the interface in more detail later. As for connectivity, on this side here we've got microphone in and then a microphone volume with a master volume there. On this side we've got the headphone queuing toggle, so you've basically got changing between mix and master in your headphones. Then this volume switch for your headphones. Now, one thing that's cool is you've got 2 external inputs or outputs for headphones, so you can plug in 2 pairs of headphones, and if you've ever taught someone else how to DJ, you'll know how frustrating it is when you have to give them the headphones and say, hey, listen to this, I'll try and mix this again. But this is really cool. You can have someone listening along while you teach them, or they teach you. Now on the back of the controller we've got power input, and we've got this USB input here, which allows you to use this unit as a DJ controller for controlling software. This USB is another input for media. You've got right and left RCAs here for master output, and also 5¼ inch headphone for master output as well. And also, I forgot to mention, there's a USB port here on the top for plugging in your USB keys. Also, one thing that I thought was really cool, on the bottom of the unit, you can basically put in any external hard drives and anything in there and plug them into your additional 2 media inputs down here. Now, the reason this is cool is because if you're running late for a house party, or you're taking this out to a club and you're DJing with it, you can basically just have all your USB hard drives or media in there and leave it in there, so you'll never rock up and accidentally forget your music. But yeah, it's a pretty compact unit. The construction is plastic, but it seems definitely pretty durable. And let's plug it in, see how it goes. But the first thing you'll notice when you turn it on is it just raves at you. It completely lights up, and blinky lights, everything goes really crazy. And yeah, the unit's booting, and it's just about loaded. You won't be able to see the interface here yet on the camera. The camera's not that great. But yeah, that's it, loaded, ready to go. So let's get to updating this thing, and then we'll go through the heart of the unit, which is really this interface here. So according to the instructions, updating the SCS.4DJ is fairly straightforward. All you need to do is copy the update file to your USB key and put it in the player. So we'll see what happens. I checked the software level. I don't know if you can see that there, but the operating system version is 1.41. We are now up to version 3.02, so it should be quite an upgrade, and I think it's only fair that we review it with the latest software available. So apparently we just pop our USB key in, and then it'll read the USB key, and there you go. That's easy. It says, an update file SCS4DJ 302 update has been detected. Would you like to apply this firmware update? Why, yes, I would. So there you go, that was fairly straightforward. We're now running version 3.02, and definitely the menu seems more responsive now. And let's get to reviewing. So the interface of the Stanton SCS.4DJ is really the heart of the controller. It's a screen that allows you to load tracks, view the waveform of tracks, browse what tracks you're going to play, change system settings, and really customize everything about the controller. There's a lot going on in this interface, but Stanton has done a really good job of making it fairly intuitive. Once we've loaded up, you can see on the top here, we've got details about what's loaded in deck A up here, and details about what's loaded in deck B up here. At the moment the decks are empty, and it says empty. We've got the tempo, BPM, and effects parameters up here, and because we've got USB media plugged in containing tracks, it's automatically loaded up into the browse view, and we can see that because this button's highlighted. We can use this rotary knob down here to actually scroll through the track list, and in order to load one of these tracks onto deck A or B, I just use these side buttons here. So we highlight the track in the playlist, press load A or press load B. And you can see we've got 4 buttons either side of the display. These do different things depending on which interface screen we're on. As you can see here, the lines just say whatever they're going to do on the particular screen. So if we're going to load it onto this track, onto deck B, we just press load B, and then it will take us to this home screen. Now this home screen shows any album art on the particular MP3 that we've just loaded. It shows a waveform of the track that's just been loaded, and it shows this here, and this is basically a beat counter which helps you people that are learning how to DJ to basically count in beats. And we can see at the top here, now that the track's loaded, we've got the track name, the tempo, the BPM, and the high pass. Now if I play the track, you can see it count in those tracks. And if we want to get more information, we can press the waveform button here, and it will actually zoom in and show us the waveform of that track. So it'll play that, which is actually really, really cool. We can use this zoom button here to zoom in or out that waveform. And that gives a really good visual reading of the track that's actually playing in it. And if you're learning how to DJ, that really, really helps. And yep, if you put it on the scratch mode, it's really responsive as well. Now if we go to the playlist view, now that we've loaded a track, we can see in the playlist that we've just played this track, and this screen keeps a record of all the tracks that we've actually loaded and are playing. It allows you to create your own playlists for if you're going to a club and you want to play particular things, and a few other modes as well, so search for tracks. And you can actually plug in a external USB keyboard and type in track names when you're on the playlists and browse view, and find particular tracks that you're looking for, so if you're getting requests and things like that. In the system view, we have access to a lot of settings of the actual hardware. You can see we've got audio settings there, we've got platter settings about how the platter behaves when we use it, settings about the crossfader with crossfader curves, some more settings about the actual system itself, display settings, information about the devices we've got plugged in. You can actually play MP4 videos, I don't know why you use that, but it can. And options about the MIDI controller. It's actually got a huge amount of functions that you wouldn't find on much more expensive controllers, so it's really strong in this area. Let's load a track into deck A, and now we can see that both the tracks are loaded. We've gone straight to this waveform view, skipped the home view because we selected that last time. Ooh, yeah, and then we can basically just DJ. Now if you want a beat match, you can basically line up these beats, and it'll help you do that basically, and like what Tractor and Serato would do. But yeah, that is the interface. Stanton, again, done a fantastic job, and good stuff. Okay, so mixing with the SCS.4DJ is fairly straightforward. As I mentioned earlier, it has a fairly standard mixer layout. So what I'm going to do is load one track here into deck A, and then, yeah, I've got another one. Oh, loaded the same track twice, my bad. I'm going to load one track into deck A. I'll choose a different one, I'll choose this one. And then basically you've got both the tracks loaded, we're ready to go. Hit play, the track starts moving as I said before on the waveform. Now, one thing about these EQs is they're full cut EQs, so if I cut the lows off here, it basically completely cuts it to the point where I actually turn those frequencies completely off if I kill all the EQs. Or I could just have just the mids, or just the highs. Yeah, the EQ works pretty well. Now, the one thing that everyone has said that I've read about this controller is there is a glaring omission here, and it's a gain control. There is no gain control here, and it's something that I really wish the unit had. It implements auto gain, this controller, so it tries to automatically determine the volume of tracks and compensate, but it kind of works to an extent. So instead we need to try and regulate volume when the tracks are completely different with the up faders here. So this track is a little bit louder than the other track that we're going to mix in, so we're just going to leave it about here. And just because you don't want to sit around forever, I'm going to seek through this track towards the end so we get to the mixing part. Or we'll go back. We went past my cue point. So what we've done is we're listening to this new track coming in on the headphones, we've cued this tune, and as you can see the lines here are actually lining up, meaning that they're a visual representation that they're in beat to aid beat matching. And if we want to record this, I can hit the record button there, and then it will say keep mixing, select which device, and now it's recording to a WAV file. Then we've got the new track. Basically cue that, we'll browse to another track. We'll load this back into deck B. But essentially you get the point. It's fairly straightforward in mixing, and one thing about it is it's a lot lower latency than I would have actually expected. Some DJ controllers you get a little bit of lag, but this is pretty responsive. So you hit Q, it actually plays straight away. In terms of connectivity for the SCS.4DJ, we've got just about every device that you're going to plug into the unit right here. We've got your iPod, which kind of emulates an iPhone as well. I don't have one, but they connect in the same way. We've got a USB key here, and we've got a Samsung Galaxy S2 in USB storage mode. Now, all three devices are loaded up with a huge amount of music. If we hit the browse tab, that music has actually been loaded into our playlist view. Now, this 80 gig iPod is completely full with thousands of tracks. One thing that I have noticed is that this menu does tend to lag out a little bit because it has so much music in it. So if I scroll here, you'll see that it lags a bit. So what I would recommend is keeping the music sizes down to probably about 10 to 20 gig. That's still at least 1,000 MP3s, and it deals with that a lot better. There's just probably about 10,000 tracks in here. Now, the main thing is, even if you do have this amount of music, mixing is still responsive. So we've loaded a track from this iPod, and we hit Q. Alright, so what we've enabled right here is very dangerous. It's auto DJ mode, and it's what I like to call making me completely irrelevant. Let's see how it goes. So basically, we've got 2 tracks loaded, we hit the auto DJ button here, and then we stand back and let it do its magic. But what we're gonna do is just gonna fast forward this track because we don't have 7 minutes for you guys to sit through. Make me proud. Going to start its mixing goodness. Yes! Auto DJ! Okay, so that feature isn't quite club ready yet, but yeah, and it's good news because I am not completely irrelevant. It makes me feel better. But one feature of Auto DJ, I probably wouldn't use the crossfade function because, as you heard just there, sometimes results aren't great. But you can actually set like a 0 or 2 second gap and change a few options. So chances are what I'd do is I'd set a 0 second gap and then I'd just use it as basically a media player. You could sit there and set up a playlist and have it run through your playlist. And yeah, that's probably my use for Auto DJ. But since most of you will be buying it to DJ, you probably won't be using that function. So on this unit, you've got 4 effects to choose from: filter, flanger, slicer, or a delay. Now they do what you'd expect. You've got a high pass and low pass filter, a flanger, and a slicer, and a delay. Now these effects are pre-fader, so you can't unfortunately start an effect and then drop the fader and have, say, the delay roll out. But they're still pretty cool and you can get some good effects with them. So I've got this track queued up and we're gonna test them out. Now in terms of flanger, now the slicer is a very interesting effect which I'm yet to work out totally. It kind of tries to grab the beat, stutter it, a bit like Pioneer's Roll, does some breaks and does some funky stuff in there as well. So let's see if we can get it to behave. So it does all sorts of crazy stuff. If you increase the time or the modulation of this effect, it does do some crazy weird things. So I prefer to leave the slicer on just 1 beat, but this is what it does if you speed it up. Kind of all goes blah, blah, blah. But yeah, you can get some cool effects out of it, I'm sure. I just haven't really mastered this thing. As for the delay, it does what you'd expect. It adds a delay to the music. And that's pretty much the 4 effects on the unit. Now underneath that you also have loops. Now the loops do what you'd expect, they loop the music. Now if the BPM has automatically been detected of the song, of the track, you need to make sure that the BPM's set. if the BPM has not been detected correctly, you can use the tap button down here to tap in the BPM. Now, let's try out the loops. Basically, to start a loop, you press the loop button here, and then there's these two buttons, divide and times. So obviously, when you press a loop, it does a 4-bar loop, and then you press divide to halve that, and you keep halving it, and then you press times to expand it. If you want to jump out of the loop, you hit loop again, and if you want to call the loop, you press re-loop. So let's give it a go. So we've got a 4-bar loop going there. And if you want to re-loop that, and then you just call loop again, and that's loops. Why, hello there. I'm sorry to have you on an angle. I know it's rude, but it's the only way I figured out how I could actually capture what's going on here. What we're doing now is we're using the SCS.4DJ as a MIDI controller to control the Track to Scratch Pro 2 software. What I've done is I've got the controller hooked up to the computer via one USB cable, and I've set the controller to MIDI controller mode. Now, once this is in MIDI controller mode, I've gone to the Stanton website, I've downloaded the Track to Scratch Pro 2 mapping, and then I've imported it into Traktor, and I've set Traktor to internal mode. The reason we need it in internal mode is because we're using the software mixer inside Traktor, so that's so the up faders and crossfader and everything like that works. But basically, once that's set up and going, we've got Traktor running and we've got some tracks loaded, we can control just about every function of Traktor, from effects to loops, obviously mixing itself, track selection and things like that. And the mapping works really, really well. I've got this track here, hit cue, queuing works, play, the platter works, up faders, EQs. And one really cool thing about this mapping is, because this traditionally controls tracks like that, we can actually use these platters to control effects as well. If I hit this touch button here, suddenly this jog wheel becomes to controlling dry and wet of any particular effect you've got selected. And those of you that have seen me mix before know that I love the Beat Masher in Traktor. And in this particular mode, the pitch slider actually becomes, allows you to control the kind of parameter of the flanger as well. And then we undo touch, and then we're back to the normal mode again. So we can do all that type of stuff. Loops work really well. And also we've got hot cues up here, so I can press just hot cue 1, it will set a hot cue on the track. I actually had those hot cues preset when I was mucking around before, but this one that I just set here, it just keeps calling that once you've set it on that particular track. We've also got re-loop controls here and hot cues for this other deck as well. Now this control in the middle can be used for actually browsing through the playlist of tracks. Press enter, it will load that track onto the particular deck that you've got selected. And that's about it. Everything works really, really well. Unfortunately, you can't use the headphones here because obviously everything's being done in Traktor. This is now just a MIDI controller, so no audio is actually going through the unit. But the only downside of MIDI controller mode is there is increased latency from the hardware mode. That's fairly obvious. It's a problem with all MIDI controllers, and this does a pretty good job of being flexible to both the hardware or software, depending on what you prefer. But yeah, it does a pretty good job overall. So the verdict on the Stanton SCS.4DJ, it actually really exceeded my expectations. It's a controller that's really packed with features, some features that aren't found on much more expensive controllers, and for 550 bucks, you really can't go wrong. It's quite versatile. It can be used as a standalone controller, as I said, or just as a MIDI controller. So very flexible. You can just pick it up, head to the party, get on with the job of DJing. So yeah, really awesome little unit.